When the stars went silent, the message arrived at exactly 14:32 Universal Time, cutting through every communication channel on Earth like a blade through silk. No warning, no diplomatic preamble, just cold, mechanical words that would change everything. "People of Earth," the synthesized voice began, its tone carrying the weight of absolute authority. "I am Admiral Zextar of the Stellar Confederacy. Your species has violated the Galactic Peace Accords by expanding beyond your designated solar system. You have 24 Earth hours to surrender unconditionally and submit to relocation. Failure to comply will result in planetary sterilization." The transmission ended as abruptly as it began, leaving behind only the hum of electronics and the sound of a world holding its breath. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the center of the Global Defense Command, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display, showing thousands of alien vessels positioned just beyond Neptune's orbit. At 42, she had dedicated her life to a scenario most people hoped would never come. Today, hope had run out. "Status report," she said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they faced. Dr. Marcus Webb, the quantum weapons engineer whose wild theories had been dismissed by half the scientific community, stepped forward. His usually disheveled appearance was even more pronounced today, his gray hair sticking up at odd angles from running his hands through it. "The Prometheus network is fully operational, Commander. All orbital platforms are synchronized and ready. How many ships are we looking at?" Chen asked, though she already knew the answer would be devastating. Captain Elena Vasquez, Earth's youngest starship commander at 35, consulted her tablet. "Long-range sensors count approximately 15,000 vessels. Their formation suggests a siege pattern, not an invasion force. They're not here to conquer, Sarah. They're here to eliminate." The room fell silent except for the steady beeping of monitoring equipment. 15,000 ships against Earth's modest defense fleet of 300 vessels. On paper, it wasn't even a contest. But Commander Chen had stopped believing in paper calculations long ago. "General Liu, what's the status of our ground-based installations?" General Liu Wei, a veteran of 3 decades of military service, straightened his shoulders. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his eyes held a fire that spoke of someone who had never backed down from a fight. "Every missile silo, every defense platform, every hidden bunker is ready for activation. The civilian population has been moved to underground shelters as planned. We're as ready as we'll ever be." Chen nodded slowly. For 5 years, Earth had been preparing for this moment. Not openly, not with grand declarations or military parades, but quietly, methodically, with the kind of determination that had carried humanity through ice ages and world wars. The Stellar Confederacy had made a crucial mistake. They assumed that because Earth was young and isolated, it was weak. They believed that overwhelming force would lead to immediate surrender. They had studied human history, but they had misunderstood its lessons. "Dr. Webb," Chen said, turning to the scientist, "are you certain the Prometheus network will work against their shields?" Webb's eyes lit up with the kind of enthusiasm that had driven him to work 18-hour days for the past 3 years. "Commander, their shields are designed to deflect energy weapons and absorb kinetic impacts. But our system doesn't rely on either approach. We're using quantum entanglement to bypass their defenses entirely. The missiles will materialize inside their ships before they can react." It sounded like science fiction, even to Chen. But Webb had tested the system extensively, and the results had been consistent. Humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to think differently, to find solutions where others saw only problems. "What about their demand for surrender?" asked Captain Vasquez. "Shouldn't we at least attempt negotiations?" Chen looked around the room at the faces of Earth's defenders, scientists, soldiers, engineers, and strategists who had volunteered to stand between humanity and extinction. Their expressions ranged from determined to terrified, but not one of them looked ready to give up. "Elena," Chen said quietly, "in all of human history, when has surrender ever led to anything but subjugation or extinction? The Confederacy isn't offering us a choice. They're offering us the illusion of one. She walked to the main display, where Earth hung like a blue jewel surrounded by points of light representing the alien fleet. Our ancestors faced impossible odds before. They stood at Thermopylae, at Stalingrad, at the Alamo. They didn't win because they were stronger. They won because they refused to accept defeat. General Liu stepped forward. The question isn't whether we can win, Commander. The question is whether we're willing to make them pay such a price for victory that they'll think twice before threatening another world. Chen felt a surge of pride at the general's words. This was why humanity had survived when other species had fallen. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they were willing to fight when fighting seemed hopeless. Dr. Webb, initiate the Prometheus network. Captain Vasquez, prepare the fleet for combat deployment. General Liu, activate all ground-based defenses. She paused, looking at each of them in turn. And send a message to Admiral Zextar. What should the message say? Vasquez asked. Chen's smile was cold as winter steel. Tell him we've received his ultimatum. And tell him our response is launching now. High above Earth's atmosphere, hidden within what appeared to be communication satellites, the Prometheus network came to life. Quantum processors that had cost more than most countries' entire military budgets began calculating firing solutions. The alien fleet, confident in their overwhelming numbers, maintained their positions without evasive maneuvers. They were about to learn why humanity had conquered every environment on their planet, from the deepest oceans to the highest mountains, not through superior technology, but through superior adaptation and an absolute refusal to surrender. The first wave of quantum missiles materialized inside the alien flagship's command center at 1447 Universal Time, exactly 15 minutes after the ultimatum expired. The explosion that followed lit up the space around Neptune like a new star. Admiral Zextar, in his final moments, realized that the Stellar Confederacy had made a fundamental error in judgment. They had assumed that a young species would behave predictably, that fear would override courage, that logic would triumph over determination. They had never encountered humans before. As the second wave of missiles found their targets, and alien ships began disappearing in brilliant flashes of light, a new message broadcasted across all frequencies. Not from Earth this time, but from the remnants of the alien fleet. Retreat. Immediate retreat. The humans are not what we expected. But it was too late. The Prometheus network had been designed for exactly this scenario, and Dr. Webb had built it well. By the time the alien fleet attempted to withdraw, half their ships were already gone, materialized missiles having bypassed every defense they possessed. Commander Chen watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. They had hurt the enemy badly, perhaps badly enough to buy Earth time to prepare for the next attack. Because there would be a next attack. The Stellar Confederacy would not forgive this humiliation. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Today, humanity had sent a message that would echo across the galaxy. Earth would not go quietly into extinction. Earth would fight. And sometimes, when cornered and desperate, humans fought in ways that changed the universe itself. Fire and steel. The quantum flames that consumed the Stellar Confederacy's vanguard fleet painted the outer solar system in colors that had no names. Admiral Zextar's flagship, the Sovereign's Will, shuddered as explosions blossomed throughout the formation. Ships that had terrorized 100 worlds simply vanished, their hulls breached from within by weapons that materialized past every defense. On the bridge of his dying vessel, Admiral Zextar stared at tactical displays that made no sense. His four arms moved frantically across control surfaces as he tried to understand what was happening. The Confederacy had conquered 300 star systems using overwhelming force and technological superiority. Never had they encountered resistance like this. Report. He barked at his communications officer, his chidness face reflecting the fire of dying ships. Admiral, we've lost 40% of the fleet in the first wave, the officer replied, his voice tight with disbelief. Their weapons are materializing inside our ships. Our shields are useless. Zextar's mandibles clicked in frustration. The humans weren't supposed to have this technology. Their intelligence reports had indicated a primitive species barely capable of interstellar travel. Yet somehow, they had developed quantum warfare systems that surpassed anything in the Confederacy's arsenal. Back on Earth, Commander Chen watched the battle unfold with professional detachment. The Prometheus network was performing exactly as designed, but she knew this was only the beginning. The Confederacy controlled thousands of star systems and possessed military resources beyond imagination. This victory would be temporary at best. Dr. Webb, how long can we maintain this rate of fire? Webb consulted his displays, sweat beading on his forehead despite the climate-controlled environment. The quantum processors are operating at maximum capacity. At this rate, we can maintain full effectiveness for another 6 hours before we need to cycle the system. Will 6 hours be enough to eliminate their entire fleet? If they maintain their current formation and don't adapt their tactics, yes. But Commander, they're already starting to spread out. They're learning. Chen nodded grimly. That was the problem with fighting intelligent enemies. They adapted, just as humans did. The question was who could adapt faster. General Liu approached, carrying a tablet filled with status reports. Commander, we're receiving communications from the lunar colonies and the Mars settlements. They're requesting permission to activate their defensive systems. Granted. And General, initiate Protocol 7. Liu's eyebrows rose slightly. Protocol 7 was the nuclear option, literally. Hidden throughout the solar system were antimatter bombs disguised as asteroids and space debris. If Earth fell, they would detonate simultaneously, turning the entire system into a radiation-filled grave that would be uninhabitable for millennia. It was a final middle finger to any conqueror, a promise that victory over humanity would be Pyrrhic at best. Captain Vasquez looked up from her communications console. Sarah, I'm receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. They're requesting parley. Put it through. The main screen flickered, and Admiral Zextar's image appeared. His elegant armor was cracked, and green fluid that might have been blood stained his ceremonial sash. When he spoke, his voice carried a tone Chen had never heard from the Confederacy before. Respect. Commander Chen of Earth Defense. I am Admiral Zextar. We underestimated your species' capabilities. Perhaps we can reach an accommodation. Chen studied the alien commander's face, reading the exhaustion and frustration there. Admiral, 12 hours ago, you demanded our unconditional surrender and threatened to sterilize our planet. What's changed? You have demonstrated capabilities we did not expect. The Confederacy values strength. Perhaps Earth could join us as an equal partner rather than a conquered territory. The offer hung in the air like a sword over Chen's head. Partnership with the Confederacy would mean safety for Earth, access to galactic civilization, and an end to humanity's isolation. It was everything the human race had dreamed of since they first looked up at the stars. It was also a trap. Dr. Webb, Chen said quietly, what's your assessment of their remaining fleet strength? Webb's fingers danced over his console. They've lost 60% of their ships, but they're adapting their formation. If they scatter completely, our effectiveness will drop significantly. They could still overwhelm us through sheer numbers. Chen looked around the command center at the faces of Earth's defenders. They had fought brilliantly, using human ingenuity to turn a hopeless battle into an unexpected victory. But they all knew this was only the first round. Admiral Zextar, she said finally, I appreciate your offer. But I have a counter-proposal. The alien commander's eyes narrowed. Speak. Leave our solar system. Never return. Spread the word throughout the Confederacy that Earth is off-limits. In exchange, we won't hunt down and destroy every one of your remaining ships. Zextar's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Commander, you speak boldly for someone commanding a single planet. Even after your impressive display, you cannot hope to defeat the full might of the Confederacy. Chen's smile was sharp as a blade. Admiral, Let me share something about human history. We've never been the strongest species on our planet. We were prey animals, hunted by creatures with bigger teeth and stronger claws. But we survived because we learned to think differently. She gestured to the tactical display showing the devastated alien fleet. Your ships are designed to fight other ships in open space. Your tactics are based on overwhelming firepower and technological superiority. But we didn't build a fleet to fight your fleet. We built a network to eliminate your fleet. Dr. Webb stepped forward, his eyes bright with scientific enthusiasm. Admiral, would you like to know how our quantum missiles work? They don't travel through space at all. They exist in a state of quantum superposition until the moment they're observed inside your ships. Your shields can't stop them because they're never actually there until they explode. Impossible, Zextar said, but his voice lacked conviction. Your physicists told you the same thing about faster-than-light travel, Webb replied. Until you figured out how to do it. We just figured out how to do something else. General Liu moved to stand beside Chen. Admiral, in every war Earth has ever fought, victory has gone to whoever was most willing to pay the price. We're willing to pay any price to remain free. The question is, how much are you willing to pay to conquer us? Zextar was silent for a long moment, staring at the humans who had shattered his fleet with weapons that shouldn't exist. Around him, his bridge crew awaited orders while space burned with the remains of their comrades. You would make powerful allies, he said finally. We would, Chen agreed, but we won't make obedient subjects. That's the choice, Admiral. Withdraw and tell the Confederacy that Earth is willing to talk as equals, or stay and discover what other surprises we've prepared. What other surprises? Zextar asked, though something in his voice suggested he might not want to know. Chen's smile never wavered. Admiral, we've been preparing for this day for 5 years. The Prometheus Network is just what we're willing to show you. Humanity has been fighting wars for 10,000 years. Did you really think we put all our eggs in one basket? As if to emphasize her point, long-range sensors detected movement throughout the solar system. Hidden installations were powering up. Weapons platforms were emerging from asteroid fields, and ships that had been disguised as mining vessels were revealing their true nature as warships. Earth hadn't just built a defense network. They had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Admiral Zextar looked at the tactical display, showing the true scope of human preparations, and for the first time in his long military career, he felt something he had never experienced before. Fear of a species younger than some of his metals. We will withdraw, he said quietly, but the Confederacy will not forget this day. Neither will we, Chen replied. Safe travels, Admiral. The transmission ended, and slowly the remaining alien ships began to pull back from the solar system. They would return to the Confederacy with tales of a species that fought with quantum fire and refused to needle, even in the face of annihilation. As the last of the alien vessels disappeared into hyperspace, Dr. Webb slumped into a chair, exhaustion finally catching up with him. Do you think they'll honor the withdrawal? For now, Chen said, but they'll be back. This time with everything they have. Captain Vasquez looked up from her communications console. So what do we do now? General Liu answered before Chen could speak. Now we get ready for the next round. Because next time, they'll know what we're capable of. And we'll need to be ready with something they don't expect. Chen nodded, already planning the next phase of Earth's defense. Humanity had won its first interstellar war not through superior numbers or technology, but through the same qualities that had carried them from caves to the stars. Ingenuity, determination, and an absolute refusal to surrender. The galaxy had learned something important today. Earth was not just another world to be conquered. Earth was humanity's home, and humans had never been very good at giving up their homes without a fight. In the depths of space, Admiral Zextar's surviving ships limped toward Confederacy space, carrying news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. A new power had emerged, one that fought with weapons that bypassed every known defense and warriors who preferred death to defeat. The age of easy conquest was over. The age of humanity had begun.